Yo guys, what is going on, and welcome back to another episode of Premier League Talk. The penultimate game week has taken place. We now have only the final game week to go. What a crazy weekend we had. The title was officially decided. The relegation battle is really starting to heat up. We had our Champions League places decided as well. So it was just crazy. And as usual, I'm going to run through the results and we'll pick out the games that we're going to talk about and give some time to. So we start with Newcastle versus Brighton on Thursday night. Newcastle smashed them 4-1, absolutely demolishing Brighton. Great result for Newcastle that pushed them even closer to top four. Saturday, Spurs went 1-0 up thanks to a screamer from Harry Kane, only to lose 3-1 to Brentford in possibly the most Spursy performance of all time. Bournemouth, they lost narrowly 1-0 to Manchester United thanks to a Casemiro overhead kick in the 8th minute. I mean, by overhead kick, it's not the greatest goal. He did flick it over the defender and then just finish it, but it still was a phenomenal finish. Fulham drew 2-2 with Crystal Palace. Liverpool drew 1-0 with Aston Villa. We'll come back to that one. Wolves drew 1-0 with Everton. Everton saving themselves thanks to a Yerry Mina header in the 99th minute. And Forest beat Arsenal 1-0 to hand Manchester City the title. Sunday, West Ham beat Leeds 3-1. Huge result for the Hammers. They made sure they stayed safe. Leeds, they're really in the thick of it at the moment. The final game is going to be huge for the relegation race. Brighton, they managed to get back on form. They beat Southampton 3-1. And then Manchester City were presented with a trophy. They beat Chelsea 1-0. We'll come back to that game as well. And then finally, last night, Newcastle drew 0-0 with Leicester. And we'll start with Newcastle 0-0 Leicester. Newcastle, they're back in the big time after 20 years. They will be playing Champions League football next season. And what a job Eddie Howe has done. He has been absolutely phenomenal, I have to say. They haven't done what I think a lot of people expected them to do, go out and splash the cash on world-class mega names, bringing them in and just trying to fit them into a team. They picked on the perfect players. Their recruitment strategy has been perfect. You think players such as Isaac or Bruno Guimaraes or Dan Burn, for example. I mean, the fact that he's going to be a Champions League left-back next season just amazes me. And they've just subtly brought them into the team and made sure they fit into place. And it's been a phenomenal season for Newcastle, and they thoroughly deserve it. And it's going to be really interesting to see what they do this summer. I mean, either they keep going with the same strategy, which I think will work, but I think this time they do need to add a few big names, because I think Liverpool are going to try and come back this season. Chelsea might be there if they announce Pochettino. I don't think Spurs are going to be a threat at all. But they're going to have to compete with Man United, Arsenal, Manchester City, possibly Chelsea, possibly Liverpool. So I do think they need that maybe one or two major marquee signings. But apart from that, I think their transfer strategy should just stay the same, because it's clearly working. Leicester, on the other hand, they're now 1 point away from safety. They're 1 point behind Everton. And it all goes down to the final game. They're in 19th place at the moment. They really do need something to go their way. It's out of their own hands now. Everton are the only team that have their fate in their hands. If Everton win, they're safe. They need to make sure that they do that. They're playing Bournemouth at home on the final day. Leicester, they have West Ham at home. Leeds have Spurs at home. So Leeds actually have the tougher fixture. But I really wouldn't be surprised if Leeds managed to pull it off. But again, the fate of Leeds and Leicester is in Everton's hands. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But fair play to Leicester. I mean, to go away to Newcastle and get a 0-0 draw, it's not a great result, but by the end of it's not the end of the world either. Anyway, the next game I want to talk about is Liverpool 1, Aston Villa 1. Now, this was a game that was huge in the race for Europa League. It now looks like both of these sides will be playing Europa League football. I don't think Spurs are going to get it. I don't think Brighton are going to get it. Liverpool 1, Aston Villa 1. Liverpool took the lead thanks to Jacob Ramsey. Great finish from him. And it looked really comfortable for Villa. Liverpool didn't really mount that much of a threat, apart from Cody Gakpo had a clear goal disallowed for obscene reasons. I'm not sure what was going on there, but once again, a failing from VAR. And then Bobby Firmino, in his final game at Anfield, comes up with the equaliser, and it was just such a fitting ending. He's been phenomenal for Liverpool over the past 7 years. I mean, you think back to when Klopp first came in 2015-16, he was banging in goals left, right and centre. Part of that legendary Mane, Firmino and Salah front three. I mean, they just tore teams apart, winning Champions League, winning Club World Cup, winning FA Cup, winning Premier League. They were phenomenal together, and obviously Mane left last summer, so now it's just Salah left from that front three, and he's been a phenomenal servant for the club, and I'm sure Liverpool fans will say that he's definitely an icon in their eyes. So what a player, and what a game. I mean, I'm personally happy that Firmino is not going to be able to continue his scoring record against Arsenal. which he's done. It's just obscene, the fact that he's continued to do that against us. But yeah, but what a game. And let's just have a look at the table real quick. Liverpool, they're in 5th at the moment. Aston Villa are in 7th. So actually, Aston Villa might get Conference League. Spurs, I don't think are going to get Europe. Aston Villa will get Conference League. Brighton do have a game in hand, though, on both Liverpool and Aston Villa, but Brighton are 5 points behind Liverpool, whereas they're 3 points ahead of Aston Villa. So, look, it wasn't a great result for Villa, maybe, but they'll take it. And look, considering where they were earlier on the season under Gerrard at the start of the year in a relegation race, it was not looking pretty for them. Emery has come in and done absolute wonders. And if they can get the signings that we're talking about, maybe like an Asensio or a Tielemans, then it's looking really promising for Villa. So they're definitely a team to keep an eye on next season, but we'll have to wait and see what happens with them. And finally, the game I want to talk about is Manchester City versus Chelsea. Now, the game itself was pretty dull. City obviously put out a second-string team. They had been confirmed as champions the night before. Chelsea didn't really mount a threat. Julian Alvarez got the goal. And eventually we were left with this sight of Manchester City lifting the title 3 in a row, 5 in 6 years. A phenomenal, phenomenal side. Arguably the greatest ever. If they go on to win the treble, they are undoubtedly the greatest ever in my eyes. Look, it does hurt a bit as an Arsenal fan. I'm not going to lie and say it doesn't hurt, but at the same time, you've just got to look at this team and admire them, because they've been on a 22-game unbeaten run. They haven't lost since mid-February. I mean, they've been absolutely phenomenal, and you just have to hold your hands up and say you were beaten by the better side in the title race, and we were, ultimately. We were, and to be honest, I'm very happy. I think if you go back and look at all my videos, I never explicitly said that we were definitely going to win the league. So, look, fair play to Man City, and we go again next season. I think Arsenal and Man United at the moment are the 2 best placed teams to challenge Manchester City for the title next season. We'll have to wait and see what Newcastle do. I just think the way Man United play at the moment, and if they can get in a few players, I think they'll definitely be in this title race. Arsenal again, Declan Rice, Caicedo, maybe a Gundogan or Mason Mount. Obviously, they're going to be free agents at the end of the season. Maybe even a Diaby. We'll have to see what happens. But I definitely think Arsenal will be back in the title race next season. But whether, again, we have to see what Manchester City do, because obviously we know them with their pulling power at the moment. So let's just wait and see. But you know what? You've got to hold your hands up and say congratulations to Manchester City. They thoroughly deserve it. They are the Premier League champions for this season. And fair play. If they can beat Inter Milan in Istanbul and Man United at Wembley, then the best team ever in my eyes. But yeah, anyway, thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.